Hi there folks, how you doing? Sally here. If you're watching, do jump on and say hi, let me know you're watching. I'm a bit croaky, I haven't spoken to many people today, so I need to get my lungs going on. So when you're on, just send me a thumbs up or send me a heart or something like that. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sally and I help people overcome and navigate anxiety and depression through the kind of mind-body connection, through hypnosis, through coaching, through mind-body practices. And I'm also the founder of Inspiring Talks Brighton, and I help people overcome their fear of public speaking. And I'm also a vocal coach. I've been doing that for many years. But today's live is called Safeguarding Against Anxiety. We don't want it spiraling out of control. This is part 2 of the intro series. And basically, if you've read the description, there are many hashtags which I would quite like people in the group to stick to. Of course, you're welcome to go off-piste if you want, but it's quite nice to have sort of a little bit of a framework. So this hashtag is called Steering My Ship, and it's all about kind of getting into your own lane, so to speak, and keeping your sanity, keeping your groundedness, keeping yourself in that anti-anxiety lane. And we do that through safeguarding. So last week I spoke to you a little bit about my personal triggers and what triggered me, and I was interested to hear about what triggered you too. So for me it was like overworking, it was feeling very overwhelmed, it was feeling lonely and alone and isolated. Also, it felt like, to me, anxiety is triggered by having a lot of responsibility and feeling sort of hypervigilant and perhaps sort of focusing too much on the self, focusing too sort of in your own world. And I'd love to know what some of your triggers are. Keep them coming, because knowledge is power. When we know, when we can understand ourselves, we are more empowered to make changes. And that is so important, especially when it comes to anxiety and depression. So the reason that these triggers are a problem is because they can keep us stunted. They can keep our growth stunted. They can keep us small. They can keep us trapped in our comfort zone. And the fact is, we are humans and we are meant to evolve. We are meant to grow. We are meant to flourish. You know, at Inspiring Talks the other day, there was a lady that came on. She was amazing. And she said the most dangerous phrase is, "I'm fine." You know, I'm fine. I'm bumbling along. Yeah, it's all fine. It's fine. You know, that's not okay. We're not meant to be just fine. We are meant to thrive. And there's a great author, he's local, he's called Nick Jankel, and he's got a fantastic book out called Switch On. And I highly recommend you follow him if you experience anxiety. He's one of my great people to go to feel uplifted and inspired. So what happens if we don't address our anxiety triggers? Well, they spiral out of control. So what does that look like? That looks like panic attacks. That looks like headaches. We create these illnesses which sabotage us from moving forward, from expanding, doing that expansion. We create muscle tension. We create, what else do we create? We create more loneliness, agoraphobia. We create, that's another big one, addictions. So eating disorders, we go for crutches, we go for cigarettes, we go for alcohol. If we don't address our anxiety, if we don't safeguard against it spiraling out of control, and it is much easier to break that cycle, to nip it in the bud before it's got too far out of control. The longer you leave it, the worse it's going to get for you to dig yourself out of that hole. So, excuse the knocking. The neighbour's having a kitchen fitted, so if there's knocking, I'll just talk louder. So we have to safeguard to stop it from spiralling out of control, and it's also a good idea to safeguard our good habits. So we create these habits to help us feel good about our daily lives, feel good about ourselves, so we need to safeguard around them too. So I call this like kind of planning for failure. When might things go wrong? For me, I know that if I'm emotional or if I'm stressed, I will reach for cake. That is my thing, because it gives me a temporary sense of joy. So it's my kind of quick fix, but I have to ask myself, is this really going to work? So I plan for that in my mind. I go, right, okay, no, instead of cake, I'm going to have fruit, or I'm going to go for a walk, or something different that lifts me out, and then I feel way, way, way better about myself. So that's another reason why we need to safeguard. Now, the difference between safeguarding and safety and avoidance behaviours. So a safety and avoidance behaviour is something you do because you think it's protecting you, but it's actually kind of reinforcing the anxiety. So things like sitting at the back of the auditorium in a cinema, sitting on the edge, because you might feel panicky and you might want to exit quickly. Well, challenge yourself. So for me, I've got that one, and I challenged myself all the time to sit in the middle. So if a panic attack does arise and I do feel the need to get out, I can practice my breathing, my grounding, my rational thinking. So it's good to challenge yourself to prove to your mind that you can cope with these so-called anxiety-inducing situations, because you've got to train your mind so that it begins to understand that you are safe, that it's not a threat. A good one is doing this in a crowded situation. Get yourself into the crowd and practice calming yourself down through breathing and through grounding and through telling yourself, there's no tiger in the room, I am safe. So, another safety and avoidance behaviour is holding on really tightly to the steering wheel, or holding on really tightly on the train or bus, or even in the supermarket on the trolley, to stop yourself from passing out, or whatever it is that you're worried about there. We need to release, we need to expand, we need to do more expanding, not contracting. So, right, what else? Oh yeah. Something for you to ponder before I move on to my safeguarding tips for you. When it comes to creating better habits for yourself, your anti-anxiety habits, it's really good to know what is your motivation behind it. Who are you doing it for? Why are you doing it? Okay. What else would you do if you didn't have this anxiety? Because life is there to be lived. What would you do? Would you go swimming in the sea? Would you just go swimming in a swimming pool? Would you learn to drive? Would you learn to ride a motorbike? Would you go hiking in some remote location? Would you spend more time with your family if anxiety were not an issue for you? What would you do? Get creative. Think outside the box. Would you do public speaking? Would you do singing? Would you, what else is really scary? Skydiving? Or would you just lay down in the middle of the street? Not the road, but the street. I know, Tim Ferriss. If any of you don't know Tim Ferriss, do check him out. He's another lifestyle coach, and he recommends that, doing just that to get over any fear. Just lay down in the middle of the pavement for 10 seconds and then get back up like nothing has happened. I'm yet to do that one, but I'll do it if someone else does it with me. So there you go. Okay, here we go. My tips. Tip number 1. Restore and find balance in everyday life. Okay, so masculine, feminine, doing, being. The being part is the expansiveness, the consciousness, lifting yourself up, consciously choosing to focus differently, not on all the nitpicky stuff that you've got to do through the day, but taking some time out to really raise your vibration, raise your consciousness, because when you do that, anxiety is nowhere to be seen because it's on a different frequency. Anxiety is on this kind of got to push, got to prove. It's on that frequency. It's on the worry frequency. And your brain is not a storage device. Your brain is a frequency detector. So when you get onto the being stuff, there's no anxiety. So how do you do that? Breathing, regulated breathing. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, release slowly for 12 or 16 or 18 or 20. You can do this for however long you want to. And this is phenomenal. You've got to do this a bit longer than you feel comfortable doing. You need to do this for a good 15 minutes, half an hour. I mean, some people can do this like all day. And you will get so high, trust me. You will feel an immense sense of well-being. You know, breath, oxygen, it's the most important thing for our existence, over and above food and water. Air comes first, right? So we oxygenate our cells whenever we breathe in and use our diaphragm, so you let the tummy pop out. When you breathe in, let the belly go big, it actually strokes your vagus nerve, which engages the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest. The vagus nerve is very magical. I don't know that much about it. We've got somebody at ITB giving a talk on it soon, but if you're interested, research it yourself. So, regulated breathing regularly as well, at least once a day. Meditation. I cannot say this enough. Meditation takes you, when done regularly, and there's so much scientific evidence for meditation now, can take you out of your ego. And when we're trapped in our ego, we cannot see the wood for the trees. We're too individualistic focused. We're too self-focused. And meditation helps us to notice the quality of our thinking, because you focus on the tip of your nose when you meditate. And when you've got lost in thought, you notice what the quality of that thought was. You notice it. And was it a judging thought? Was it a worrying thought? Was it a planning thought? Was it a criticizing thought? What kind of thought was it? And then you pop it very delicately, like a pin in a bubble, and then you come back to the breath. And that is training. That is training the mind to stop being so scattered, to stay focused, to stay in alignment with yourself. It also helps you to notice where your resistances are. Why and where are you resisting being? And why are you resisting being? It should be a balance. It should be 50-50, 50% doing, 50% being. I know that is very idealistic, but that is something that we can strive for in our lives because we know that feels good to us. So, next one, movement. Moving. You've got to find out what the right movement is for you. Maybe it's the gym. Maybe it's not the gym. I don't like the gym that much. It makes me more tense, that pumping iron. For me, it's walking. Walking while listening to an audiobook. But whatever kind of movement you do, just move your body. Free dancing around the room. Listen to music. Get people over. Dancing's great. If dancing's not your thing, maybe cycling, maybe rollerblading. I mean, how can you be anxious doing rollerblading? It looks so much fun. Find something that works for you. Tune into your feelings. Let your inner guidance guide you in terms of what is the right kind of exercise for you. And be aware of your discomfort when you're exercising. You don't want to go in Qigong, in Chinese medicine, they say go to 70% of your maximum effort. So yeah, never be at 100 unless of course you're an athlete. But for kind of anxiety sufferers and people like us, 70% of your maximum output is just fine. And then last but not least, kind of be more feminine. Get into that feminine vibe, that feminine vibration, the being. I heard a quote yesterday from somebody who said, whatever you do, let it be art. So whether you're tidying up, do it as if it's art. Whether you're getting dressed, do it as if it's art. And art, creativity is the feminine flowing through us. And that really helps to negate anxiety. So, all of those that I've spoken about in that first top tip helps us to realise that we are bigger than ourselves, that we're not just our thinking mind. We are more than that. We are consciousness. We are connected to everything. When you can take yourself out of your to-do into your consciousness, you will feel better. And if you don't, it's only a little resistance. Just work your way through it, work your way around it, and eventually that surrender just feels so good. So I'm hoping that this is being transmitted because nobody's on yet. And if you are watching, just say a quick hi to me. I'm sure you'll catch the replay. My top tip number 2, anyway, is make better choices for yourself. Choose wisely. Create great habits for yourself. So what are some of the things that you think or feel that you should be doing that you're not actually doing that's causing you anxiety? Like for me, I get anxious if I don't phone my parents enough. And solution to that, phone the parents, and then I feel nice afterwards. Booking social things. Sometimes I don't get around to that. I kind of leave that to the last minute. What else? I've got my list here. Softening your thoughts, doing those things in step 1. Maybe you want to create a habit that is going to bed earlier, or cutting out sugar, or eating more protein, fruit and vegetables, stuff like that. So we know half the time, we know what these good habits are. And if you don't, just have a little audit of your life and just see like what do I need to do? I mean, procrastination is a big one. We procrastinate and start to feel more and more anxious, when really we just need some good habits in place that can help us take action so that we feel less anxious. So, the Queen of Habits is Gretchen Rubin, and I have her book here. Ooh, where is it? This one. It's called Better Than Before. And she talks about payment. How do you want to pay? You pay if you don't, and you pay if you do. So you pay. So if you achieve the thing you want, right, giving up sugar or avoiding cake, we'll use that example, you get rewarded intrinsically. You have that wonderful feeling of mastery. If you decide to eat that cake, or go to bed late, or not phone your parents, you pay in feelings of yuckiness. You pay in feelings of just more anxiety. You pay in maybe guilt. You pay in that kind of self-loathing. So how do you want to pay? You choose. Do you want the good stuff, or do you want the bad stuff? And you use that as your rationale to help you make that decision. And I always ask myself this whenever I'm about to do something: how am I going to pay if I do this action? And like tidying up, for example, might not want to do it, but I'm actually going to feel a lot clearer knowing that it's done. I want that for myself. So, and all of the things that we did in step 1, the meditation, the spaciousness, the openness, helps us to be able to make better choices for ourselves. That's another good reason to do that. Okay, next step. Step number 3, or top tip number 3. Connect with others. So, loneliness and isolation are one of the major causes of anxiety. Feeling trapped, feeling agoraphobic, feeling like we're in our own little world. It's epidemic. And quite frankly, we all need to step up and change this. We need to change this for our world because we live in an individualistic society. What we need to do is change the world into a more communal society, perhaps where we speak to our neighbours a bit more, or we just come together a little bit more. We talk to each other, and when we start doing this, we change the world and we make our society much better, and this will reduce anxiety, and we are all responsible for this. So I always say connection leads to magic. It leads to synchronicity. All you need to do is get yourself in a good mood, or just, even if you're not in a good mood, just go somewhere. Just decide, make that decision that you want to feel better. I did it this morning. I do it most mornings, to be honest. I wake up worried, anxious, grumpy, sometimes depressed, sometimes tearful, overwhelmed, and I literally just have to decide to feel better. And I might not feel better the moment I've decided, but as soon as I've got out of the house and connected with another human, I do start to feel better. So get in a good mood, or just get in any mood and go out, fresh air, communicate with people. Then my recommendation to you, and this is what I want you to do, to set up a group of your own, not a Facebook group, a real group in the real world. Invite some people round. It might be a book club, it might just be a sharing circle, it might be a wellness discussion, it might be an anti-anxiety discussion, it might be a knitting discussion. Conversation is so good for your brain. It's been linked, it's got mental health benefits. Even if you're not very articulate, it does not matter. By speaking, by being witnessed, by being held in a space, your body will be releasing oxytocin, and other chemicals which I don't know about, but will help you to. What they do is it kind of mops up the cortisol and the adrenaline, so it sort of makes your muscles soften and open. So conversation is fantastic. So I urge you to set up your own groups in your own local areas where you can connect more. And I want to challenge you to one thing. I want to challenge you in your group to do some eye gazing. Now, this might put the fear of God up you, but eye gazing is wonderful. It enables you to really see into somebody's soul. And when they're looking into you and you're looking into them, there's this recognition that you are connected. And that is the perfect antidote to anxiety. So, I do have a little bonus tip for you, and my bonus tip before I go on to close is to basically unbury your trauma. And we haven't really spoken about this, but this is what I do in my sessions, in my hypnotherapy, in my rapid transformational therapy sessions. I help people to go back into the past and to unbury their trauma, to feel it, to move through it, to work through it, to understand it, to have that conversation with the father, the mother, the sister, or the hurter, to put things right in your own mind. And this is no different to having like a kind of psychedelic experience where you feel that connectedness to all that is. This is deep healing, and it's wonderful. And when that happens, you can put yourself back together and you just feel much more in alignment. So I urge you, in fact next week we are going to be talking about the benefit of breakdowns and why breakdowns are so useful, so important. Getting real, getting honest with your feelings is so important for your anti-anxiety pathway. Okay, so to close then, My 3 tips are: find balance every single day. Raise your vibration, raise your consciousness. Meditate, breathe, move. Get into the feminine. Tip number 2, choose wisely. How do you want to pay? Do you want to pay in self-mastery, feeling great about yourself, that sense of well-being, or do you want to pay in guilt, self-loathing, resentment? How do you want to pay? Then you make that decision and then you'll feel good. And then connect with others. So, and then my bonus tip was get rid of those buried, trapped feelings, all that trauma from the past. I've given you so much value in those tips, so I really, really urge you to action them. Now, if you find that this has resonated with you and you're interested in perhaps having a conversation with me to find out how I can help you in the work that I do, then I have got a special offer running at the moment, but only until the 4th of May. So, as you know, I work with people who experience anxiety. I also work with people who want to do public speaking and who want to learn how to sing, singing for pleasure, basically, not to become the next Mariah Carey. So I've got some discounted packages going on at the moment, my starter packages, and for anxiety it's called the Calm Starter Package, that's £147. Fearless Public Speaking Starter Package, again £147, or Find My Singing Voice, that's £207. So I'm going to pop the link in the description. And if you do want to, the link is for a call, to have a phone call with me. I would be delighted to talk to you. There's no obligation to book. I can find out about you. You can find out about me. It'd just be really nice to connect with you. So, I'm sorry we haven't really had any real life interaction today, but I will go back on and respond to all the comments. So please, 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 let me know what you've thought about this live. Let me know if there's anything else that I can do to make these more valuable to you. So that's it from me today. Have a wonderful week and I'll speak to you next week. Bye.